Okay, welcome back, and today's session will be email security part 2. So in part 1, we briefly walked through, SPF, DKIM, and I mentioned that, when you send an email via Gmail, you have to authenticate to their Gmail's SMTP server. But when Gmail subsequently forwards it, they don't send along that password, Gmail won't send your Gmail password to Hotmail, and both of these protocols are actually SMTP. So how does it work that, one needs to be authenticated and one doesn't need to be authenticated? So in today's session, we will look at using a PowerShell script to send out an email. We'll do a packet capture. We have Wireshark on the left side to see, to step through everything, and then I'll really explain to you, how SMTP has various different iterations and how they work basically. Yeah. Okay, so if we quickly take a look at the PowerShell script, we are just specifying, the SMTP server, and this is the one that Gmail actually publicized on their website. If you're a Gmail user, you want to connect through this SMTP to send your email. The port, we are just creating a new message, so we are pretending to be a Gmail user, we are sending it to a Hotmail user. Okay, specify a subject, body, and for starters, we won't use any encryption at all, and then we are just sending out. So everything below here, you see that hash in front, it's all comments, and then we will actually step through, replace some of this, and I'll explain to you as we go along. Okay, so let's quickly start Wireshark, and then we'll send out, the first email, or at least attempt to send it. Okay, so immediately we can see, plain text over here, this is my host name, it's saying hello, and then, it's connecting to Gmail, and then it's saying that, we have a mail. And Gmail immediately tells us that, we need to issue a start TLS command first, So Gmail doesn't do unencrypted, so we actually need start TLS. So how does start TLS differ from actually complete SSL wrapping? Is that, the initial hello would actually still be unencrypted, whereas the SSL wrap, the entire tunnel itself is encrypted. Okay, so let's quickly enable start TLS, and then we'll send it again. And then you can see what I mean. Okay, you can see now, you can see this hello again, enhanced hello, and it's unencrypted again. We can see it in plain text, but then after here, start TLS comes up, we do the cipher exchange, and then you see the application data, everything in here is encrypted already. So we no longer see any of these mail from and things like that. So this is start TLS, where the initial connection is actually unencrypted. We can see the hello. It's everything after that is encrypted. Okay, we quickly jump over to this SSL wrap version. Okay, what we are doing is we are using 465. It's a different port, and then the entire connection, TCP connection is actually wrapped in SSL. Okay, so quickly send this out, and then we can take a look at what's the difference. Okay, immediately you can see, okay, so from here onwards, this is 25, this is the one we've sent previously. So this 465 one, there's only 3 entries here. Immediately we can see it starts a tunnel, and then, everything else in the tunnel is encrypted. So we don't see all the hello and everything like that. So that's the difference between start TLS and really TLS wrapping the entire connection. Okay, so we are done with the TLS wrap. Let's quickly come back to start TLS. Okay. Let me clear this and restart. Okay, so let us send it once again with TLS actually, with start TLS configured, and we'll see what's the error message that we receive. Okay, so now we don't receive the error message that start TLS is required. Now it's authentication is required. And the reason is because we are using smtp.gmail.com, which is the SMTP server that Gmail users are supposed to use. What is Hotmail using when Hotmail is sending an email over to Gmail or forwarding an email is actually this one over here. This is in their MX record, and this one will allow us to actually attempt to send an email without authentication. So we would not be getting this 570 authentication required again. So we just replace this, and we are pretending to be a mail server now, for example Hotmail that is sending this over, and we'll immediately see that the error message is going to be different. Okay, and immediately we see now Gmail is more willing to accept without authentication anymore. It's telling us that 511, the email account you tried to reach doesn't exist. you know, and you know, all these messages are really how, you know, you get all the bounce emails and everything like that. So now we are, you know, officially trying to be a mail server now. You know, we are not using the SMTP server that, you know, the normal Gmail users are using. Okay, so we've tried John Doe at hotmail.com. Let's quickly try, you know, John Doe at gmail.com, since we are sending it to Gmail, and let's pretend to be Hotmail, you know. So the from, let's have it at Hotmail, and let's try again and see what we get. Okay, we get the same thing, you know, 511, the email account that you tried to reach doesn't exist. Okay, so I actually have a couple of emails here which I've tested prior. I know that they exist. Okay, so now we are presenting with Hotmail, and we're trying to send it to annabanana@gmail.com. Okay, and we'll see what we get over here. Okay, so we get a different message now, you know, exceeded storage allocation, you know, the recipient's inbox is out of storage space and inactive. So, you know, we are getting a bit of an enumeration or a bit of information out from there as well. So if, let's try to send to, you know, a Gmail account that is able to receive email. Okay, Sarah.KidsFocus. So I've tried this again, you know, it's just a random Gmail that I grabbed off the internet. Don't worry, the email won't actually go through, so we are not, you know, spamming anybody here. Yeah. Okay. And immediately, you know, we see a different error message now. Now it's 571, the IP you are using to send mail is not authorized. So how does Gmail know that this is not authorized? Because we are trying to send the email as Hotmail, you know, and Hotmail obviously has SPF records, and you know, the SPF records don't allow, at least my IP address is not, you know, an approved Hotmail IP address, which is why this is being rejected. So that's about it for today. So we've really tried, you know, sending an email as a legitimate Gmail user. We've tried, you know, sending it through the MX server, and this is the one that other mail servers are using. So in a future video, I will actually look at, you know, DNS records, of which, you know, MX records is one of them. But you know, it's a whole deep dive into DNS records, so I wouldn't, you know, cover that today. So we've tried both of them, and then, you know, the MX one would actually give you different kind of error messages. They actually let you send an email without authenticating, and you know, after that, you know, it's about, you know, making sure that, you know, you're sending to a recipient that is able to receive, and then also the IP reputation, the SPF records, the DKIM, and everything like that, to make sure that, you know, the email actually is able to go through Gmail's MX servers. Yep, so that's about it, and thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.